just once from these particular investors, but then they don't think about how much or what exactly is going to come into the pockets of Ugandans. So for me, and as Liberty Sparks Uganda, and of course the Libertarians family of Uganda, we see that such a bill is actually not a good one because it breaks a number of principles that we believe in, more especially into the free market principle and of course the limited government principle and idea where the government has to be limited in almost each and every economic activity so that it can enable the people to be able to harvest what exactly they have to harvest, because the more you put the more strings you put onto something, the more it becomes expensive and hard for the people to be able to do. So for me and for now, that's what I can be able to deliver. When we check, to draw back a bit, this very government was able to amend the vanilla coffee, the vanilla plant, the vanilla production in Uganda. Remember, about 15 years ago, Uganda was one of those countries that were producing a lot of vanilla. But when the government monopolized it, this is a crop that we never see. This crop paid our school fees a number of years back. It built homes for a number of farmers in this country. It was a very big economic activity people used to do. But when the government monopolized it, we are looking for vanilla and we are not able to see it. So we anticipate even today that coffee had grown. Ugandans had learned how to grow it effectively. They knew they had learned how to harvest it very well. They had learned how to dry it very well and keep it at a good quality. But as they send it back into the Ministry of Agriculture, the coffee quality is going to go down. That is a sure. It is going to go down because these are the people who don't know how to do it, and people will not be encouraged because now they don't get the money directly, so they are discouraged, and they will have now to produce whatever they are able to produce. And the cost of coffee had grown in the past 10 years or so, and it was approaching to something like 20,000 Uganda shillings. Yeah, but as we see, when it goes back into the ministry, it is likely to reduce into its cost, and of course it will be bad quality, and that will simply show that the coffee will also vanish in the air like the vanilla was vanished in the air. This will all be a result of too much government into almost each and everything, and
Okay, thank you.
also it will break whatever people would like to harvest from it. Thank you so much. That's what I can submit for now. Back
Thank
to
you very
you.
much. Thank you very much, Leonard, for helping us understand how actually the what is the impact of regulation on market efficiency. How can regulation actually influence the market efficiency and economic freedom in Uganda's coffee sector, and actually giving us the perspective of libertarians and how what is the view of libertarians about this very bill. So we are going to have the next speaker, but before we do that, we have the question and answer session after all the speakers. But if you have any question, start typing your question right now. I think the administrator didn't enable the chat, but you can use the Q&A. If you check this Zoom, you can see the Q&A. Just type your question and it will be answered. So for now, allow me to move on to the next speaker. Michael, if you are on board, you can signal me. Are you on board? Are you able to speak? Michael, are you able to speak? What about Benedict Rutemba? Are you able to speak? Do we have Benedict here? Benedict, are you on board? I don't know what could be wrong with the two panelists. Michael, I cannot hear you. I believe you can hear me, but there must be a serious issue on your end. I think we are going to move on with the follow-up questions for Ronald. As Michael, whenever you're ready, your mic is okay. You can just signal me. You can just speak. Maybe say hi. I will invite you and you take your part. But for now, Iga, you mentioned that actually the coffee bill is going to affect many Ugandans. It's already passed, but there is, as a libertarian still, we always advocate for limited government, which is one of the principles of a free society. And when the government is trying to, their point is that when they try to rationalize, they bring the coffee bill to be under the same ministry, it means they are also actually reducing on the government spending, because there are so many political units, there are so many units that belong to the government which are not actually productive when it comes to economy. So what could be your take about that before I ask you the list of the questions? Just briefly.
Hello,
Iga, did
George.
you hear me? Did you hear me?
Oh, no. I don't know why you lost, but please repeat that question, please.
I mentioned that government is trying to defend itself in rationalization, and one of the libertarian principles that mentions of limited government, and this transfers to merging these many political units and government units to be put in one so that spending can be stopped. So, what do you comment about that? Because government defends itself that we are reducing the spending, and then we are putting this under the mother ministry, and still they perform the same roles. Briefly.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. Really, this is not realistic to some of us, especially if you know how Uganda government has been able to operate for all the years. It has always moved into the lies. Like Mr. Museveni is always a master of a deceiver. He can deceive. He can always try to persuade. If he persuades his ministers and his cabinet, the MPs, especially the NRM MPs, then he's good to go. But when in actual sense, most of those things are always a lie. So, for example, if they were really thinking of reducing the cost, the government expenditure, we would simply start with his own convoy. You know that Mr. Museveni moves with over 60 vehicles every day. And this is a president who goes to Entebbe from Nakasero every day in the afternoon and in the evening. We anticipate that every time Mr. Museveni steps out of his house, he spends over 600 million Uganda shillings every time, and that is less. But he does that 3 times a day. This is a president who never shares loads with anybody. So the moment he says that I'm going to move to this place, they will lock up and seal up the loads from his home in Nakasero to everywhere he's going. They do that when he's going and do the same when he's returning. And the world there is a certain statistics that show that every time Mr. Museveni blocks the load, it takes about 1 to 3 hours. So this is 1 to 3 hours spent off, like cut off from Ugandans without doing anything. We are stuck in traffic because the president is moving. So these are all things that take out money. He's spending more, but then limiting us from making more. And yet it is us, the citizens, who are facilitating whatever they do in their government. So you see that it is really not making real sense for them to say that in the bid of curbing government expenditure, we are removing the Uganda Coffee Development Authority into back to the Ministry of Agriculture, where we got it from. We would start with reducing the president's convoy, for example. We would go and reduce the size of parliament. You know that we have over 500 MPs, over 500 MPs in Uganda parliament. Recently, the local construction company was telling us that Uganda government is actually building a bomb-proof parliament. So the new parliamentary building they are constructing is actually a bomb-proof, and we got it from the local construction company recently, just a few weeks ago. And they were asking them, why are you taking too long? And the boss came out and said, please, what we are building is not a normal building that you are used of. We are actually constructing a bomb-proof building. And this is you know, and this is this is a parliament of Uganda being constructed. So when you look at all this, it is really doesn't add up to some of us that indeed Uganda government is trying to cut expenditures. But of course they have to say that because they are used to it. They used to tell us crops, and everyone believes in them, and they move on like that. And you already know about that. So yeah, for some of us it really doesn't add up. Thank you.
That was interesting. I don't know if it's a speculation. I need to really find out on the matter of having a bomb a bomb proof.
No, yeah, that's what the spokesperson of local constructions Uganda told us a few weeks
Maybe
ago.
that
You can actually check, yeah, and you'll learn to know about it.
maybe they are giving more reasons for the delay of finishing that building. Okay, thank you for giving us that insight. So, I mean, Abonek, are you able to say hi, Michael? Then Benedict, are you able to say hi, Benedict? Okay, so let's move on with Iga. Uh, so I think most of the questions are going to be coming to you since our fellow panelists are having network issues on their end. So what with the bill passed, and it is already actually passed. Iga, can you hear me?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and it of course has a strong presidential support, who actually came out in light and had to organize a full press conference, and he paraded all the information about the strong support of why this bill should be in place, and which he called that he's being ashamed that the entire country is talking about the something small, which he said this bill is something small. So what do you think are the immediate implications for Uganda's coffee farmers, knowing that the president is in strong support of this bill and his entire NRM party in parliament?
Yeah, thank you, George. I don't want to sound what should I say? I don't really want to sound partisan or something. But according to Mr. Mseven, and we saw what actually the pre-activities that happened when the bill was being introduced into the parliament. We had the Speaker of Parliament also turned it to be tribal. Yeah, and what the Speaker said is not actually different from what almost Mr. Mseven said. And this is why Mr. Mseven came up and said this is a small thing. Because you see, somehow, somewhere, the coffee bill is not actually passed for any implication for Uganda as a whole, but probably to a certain region or a tribe or something. Because when you check, coffee growing is so much more in the central the central region of Uganda. And the people who almost participate effectively into the coffee growing is the people of the same tribe or the same region. And when you see when you hear that the president calls it a small thing, then it is a lie to himself. And because of the same panic and the pressure mounted on them by the people of Uganda and the coffee growers, this is why he had to call on a press conference to try to do what he does best of persuading the people, to put a reason, because probably there were a number of questions of why it is really done the way they did it. And Mr. Museveni had to come out and explain. But this is a president who has cabinet ministers and ministers who has ministries which has spokespersons and so on. Why is not the ministry coming out to explain anything about the coffee? Why is it always the president? Mr. Museveni has always done the same thing now and then. We remember Mr. Museveni during COVID, we never had any speech from the Minister of Health. It was Mr. Museveni on Tuesday, Mr. Museveni on Thursday, Mr. Museveni on Saturday, and so on and so forth. It was always Mr. Museveni. So Mr. Museveni has always done that thing. I wish Ugandans can understand that Mr. Museveni has always lied to us. Times without number. We cannot actually remember how many times we have been lied by Mr. Museveni. And to us, the young generation of Uganda, we have actually been betrayed by these old men, because what they do is actually benefiting them only, but not anybody else in this country. And we are taking almost 80% of the population of this country, but we are not considered at any point. So when Mr. Museveni says that coffee is actually a small thing, it is as if he doesn't know what coffee has been generating to the country of Uganda and to the economics of this country. But if he really knew, then he would not have the guts to say what he said. But it not only broke the law, but it was not right in the sense of anybody who understands what democracy is and what the role of being a speaker in a certain country mean. But yeah, for me, I know that Mr. Museveni really had to do that because the pressure was too much. But it is not true that coffee is not taking any part in the economics of this country. And if you are talking about things that are small in this country, then coffee is not part of that. Coffee is something too big because it has been bringing money into the government and bringing money into the pockets of Uganda. And this is one of the crops that actually Uganda is now producing on the world market. So it should be considered. Yeah, that is it.
Okay, thank you for that. So, what do you think are some of the potential, which you believe could be the potential unintended consequences of this bill on maybe smaller independent coffee farmers?
Kindly come again. You said
What do you think could be the some potential unintended consequences of this bill on smaller independent coffee farmers?
yeah, now because we have been fighting to curb poverty into the households of Uganda. This bro of taking away the coffee authority is now an indication on coffee. And coffee has always been paying our school fees, has paid dowry to some people, has built houses to some people, has always done this. It has been a very fundamental economic support in these households. So by now, when it is actually taken, for me, I call it taken, it is taken away by the government. If coffee indeed has been taken away, then we welcome poverty back. That is a sure. You expect to see that in about a year to come or 2 or 3, you are going to see that a number of school dropout is going to increase because parents will not have money to pay for school fees for their children. Some of these coffee farmers in Uganda has been carrying a bag of coffee to school in exchange of school fees. Some of these ones have been carrying a number of kgs of coffee to a certain store for to exchange with posho or something. but now it is all complete. And this coffee has been growing and attracting more prices on the world market because it has been quality. And people were motivated that whatever you sell from coffee is all yours. But now, as they get to know that it is actually going to be cut by the government, that vigor of making it quality is going to reduce completely because they are discouraged in a long run. And therefore, the coffee quality of Uganda is going to completely reduce. And so, when it reduces, then even the cost of it per kg is going to reduce on the world market, if not rejected at a certain point of time in the future. So if that happens, then you will find that even this crop itself is going to get down, and the gardens will be nowhere to seen because people will not be able to get out of it, and they will simply maybe smash it off and then maybe plant something else that will be able to generate some income to them. So all these and more will be seen in the later time as this amendment is moving on, maybe from next year until we will be able to identify more of these. But at least for poverty, it is actually going to increase. Yet in the past, it was decreasing because of coffee.
Okay, thank you for that. So, those who have questions, I'll take one question, then I finalize with a few follow-up questions again. Then we can have other questions and end this call. I saw that Ben, you wanted to say something. I think
That's
I've
correct.
unmuted you. You can speak.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Ben Kami. Mine is really a comment, and it's just that I just wanted maybe to make a contribution as an observer. I didn't know much about this bill, but given the discussions that were going on, I thought, okay, let me try and find out a little bit more. And I think key issues that should have really been highlighted in this discussion would have helped us to really understand issues a little bit better. First and foremost, what is happening actually? What's happening is that the government, I think, is trying to streamline some issues to do with costs. And the process by which they are doing this is try to integrate this previous Coffee Development Association Board and bring it back into the ministry. Okay, so what's the issue? The issue is there is a move to try and improve costs. But there's also an argument that's going on that, okay, you are telling us that you're improving costs, but history or facts show that previously this hasn't been achieved, where efforts have been made to try and achieve costs. That's one thing. The second is that what actually has this board been doing? One of the things that I came across, which I wanted first to highlight in this discussion, is that since its formation in 1991, it is suggested that one of its roles was to regulate the Uganda coffee value chain and support research and maximize earnings for stakeholders. So the question I would pose is that bringing this body into the ministry, is it going to downgrade this process? Is it going to improve it? Or nothing is going to happen? So those are the issues that we need to look at. Now, obviously, there's a lot of emotive politics around the subject because of various issues of concern to Ugandans and everybody who has an interest in Ugandan affairs. But if we want to really understand this issue and see whether what is actually being done is going to be good for the future, then we need to look at the facts. Okay, what is going to happen to the value chain? Are the farmers going to be able to market their product the same way that they've been able to market through the board, or are they not going to do that? Are they going to get the same value or better value? Are they going to have better access to markets or not? And I think this is something that is missing from this discussion on this platform at the moment, because I think we need to look at the key issues that are relevant to the farmers, because the farmer out there trying to grow coffee is trying to translate that coffee into a value that's going to bring them money and be able to continue to realize their dreams. And the questions we'll be asking ourselves is, what is being made? Is it going to make things better, worse off, or not? Obviously, the politics seems to suggest that maybe it's not going to achieve good results immediately, because there are many other things that have been done and haven't achieved good results. But is that the problem of the move that is being made? Or is it the problem of the people who are actually being involved in the process of implementation? Then if it is a problem of implementation, then we really need to be looking at how are things implemented? Do we have the right people? Are people compromised politically that they can't really achieve the results that they want to achieve? And I think that would help us solve a problem. But if we get lost into the minutiae of a lot of problems that have happened, we're going to miss the boat. And I think on my part, as an observer and wanting just to make a comment, we have a problem that the move is been taken, the board has been moved back to the ministry. I think we should be looking at ways within which we can engage with the structure that is being set up to make sure that the value of the farmers is achieved. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for those insights and comments. So, are you just to follow up? Are you a farmer yourself, or
I have an
are you a
interest in
coffee farmer?
farming. I have an interest in farming, and I'm taking on coffee farming really as part of an orchard development farming structure. Farming coffee plus apiary, and the coffee is providing means by which bees can get their feeds for honey. But I'm not
Okay.
a very extensive farmer, but I have an interest in farming.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very important that you pointed out a few comments. But mind you, we had actually organized this session with a diverse panel. We had Aboneka Michael, who is a lawyer, and which I had a strong belief that he's going to give us the legal analysis of this bill, but he has not been able to speak. And we also had Rutemba Benedict, who is the CEO of Agros, which is a coffee farming company, and he also a coffee farmer. But I think that is what missed, so that we could have a balanced discussion. So we are not able to get them, maybe because of network, and we have not been able to. Maybe next time we'll try our best to make sure that they are viable, because if they were viable, we could hear from the different perspective what a farmer is saying about the issues you are mentioning about the cost. Is it going to improve the cost? Is it going to do? But from my experience, when you look at, okay, of course, politics is into this bill. There are things which can actually be solved by the law, but there are things which actually need to be solved politically. And you know that most of the things in Uganda, if you are to look at things critically, they are actually using politics in law. Someone brings politics in law just to use the law. And if you read one of the book by Frederick Bastiat, he actually said that there is what they call legal plunder. Someone can use the law to do what is wrong, but because it is under the law, all of you should take it. It is right, because these are our laws that they were passed by our representative, and that is legal plunder. But thank you for those comments, and really, it's really good that we have an audience which has been following up what we are saying, and they can be able to give us feedback. So, do we have any other person who has a question? Because literally we have around 4 minutes to end this discussion. Do we have any other person? You can raise up your hand if you have a question. I can unmute you, and you are able to ask a question, or you have a comment. It will totally be fine. I know we didn't our administrator didn't enable the chat, but we have a Q&A section where you can be able to type your question, and then it is responded to. We are also live on the African Justice Media, one of our partners for this call. So if we end here, you can go on YouTube and search African Justice Media. You can still get this same conversation live because it will be live, it will be recorded, it will still be there for future reference. If we don't have any other question, I think I'm going to give Iga one more question so that we can be able to close this conversation, because we are strictly mindful about time. We have 3 minutes, and this last question is going to be about Iga, from a policy perspective. Do you believe that government intervention will actually improve? Because even Benny mentioned about this. Are we looking at improvement? Do you think the costs of the cost of coffee on an international market will actually increase? So do you believe the government intervention will actually improve the coffee sector's efficiency, or it might actually risk or stifle individual innovation? Because government is saying they are doing it in a good heart. They want to improve, the cost of the coffee. They want to improve the standard. So, what do you think? What is your comment, Iga?
Thank you very much, Georgie. First of all, thank you, Mr. Ben, my brother, for joining in, and thanks for all those comments. Actually crucial and very important. Thanks for those insights. Just to get back to that question, George, if I am to say it right, because as I said, I'm a libertarian, I'm always right to what I have to say. In that way, I don't really think that the government is doing it right, and it is not going. It's not really going to give us what we really want to see from coffee. Actually, the coffee quality, the coffee costs, the coffee value, and so on has been able to has been achieved by the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. Now getting it down and put it and hide it back into the Ministry of Agriculture, it is actually a vivid sign that it is going to die with its values inside there. The government, of course, will always have to tell us only the good side of everything. But when you look critically well, you find that something was done by either these so-called mafias within the same government, just to cripple a bit. You see, this government tends not to want people to have something within their pockets, because somebody who has something is always having a number